Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Strange Normal. My name is Brad Burnham. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what's going on. And man, I can't believe what's going on right now. If you guys are even watching a bit of the news, I've never seen so many anchors talk about UFOs so openly. This is ridiculous. And on this channel, we talk about what the truth is behind these UFO instances from the perspective of the Bible. And we have a lot to say about it. In fact, tonight we have so much interesting information. It's probably going to go a little longer than normal because we got some fascinating stuff. So before I get too far into it, let me introduce our guest tonight. Welcome, Eric. Welcome, Matthew, back to the show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, thanks for having us on.
I think this is going to be an interesting show because I haven't even seen the clips that you guys have tonight. This is an impromptu show because we have so much going on right now in the Discord, which we are all a part of. We said Matthew sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, there's a lot going on right now. We really need to get a show going because we need to inform everyone about what's happening currently." And I said, man, I am so busy this week, but you know what? I have an hour we can carve out. Maybe we can get that done. So Eric and Matthew put together an amazing show tonight. They have some really interesting clips. We're going to show you a timeline of what's kind of going on, and we're going to give our perspective on what's going on. We got even more information in there because there is details about these things that have come out that I think are just fascinating. So without further ado, do you guys have anything to say as far as an intro?
As far as an intro goes, it's just been insane. Like you said, I can't believe there's so much UFO talk just being thrown around. It's like everybody's getting primed for it. You know, it was funny. I was on my way to work today. I was riding with another guy in the truck, and he's a Christian guy. And I told him, I was just like, it's kind of weird, all the UFO stuff. And he's like, yeah, it is weird. He's like, it seems like in the past 3 years, it's really gotten heavy. And especially over the weekend, I think I'm seeing it everywhere. And I kind of filled him in. I was like, this is one of my, it's like a little crazier kind of a belief, but bear with me. And I just gave him the spiel. And, you know, he didn't say anything, but he shook his head. He's like, you know, I could see that. I could see that being the deception that goes out and deceives the whole world. And I was like, yeah, exactly. You can see it, can't you?
And not only that, but I'm seeing that this is easily being picked up by a lot of Christians. But at the same time, it's going to push everybody into different areas and harden their beliefs in certain things. And that's going to be, I believe, the even bigger deception that people are going to start accepting this spirituality, because that's what we were dealing with here, and hardening their current belief system. That's going to be fascinating when that happens, because that's ultimately what the ultimate deception is going to be. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in our next documentary. Speaking of that, if I might plug real quick, we got a documentary out called Starfall, starfallmovie.com. The movie is called Starfall, and you got to go see it because it explains everything we're going to talk about tonight, and it's going to be a lot we're going to talk about. So go ahead, go to starfallmovie.com, but not yet. Write it down because we got a show that we're going to talk about right now. Eric, do you have anything to say about that? Not the movie, but
no. I mean, I think we got a lot of material, so I think a lot of the clips speak for themselves. So let's get to it.
Let's do it. Okay, let me see if I can get that thing going here. Right into it. We don't have the docket today because this is so impromptu, but we do have the clips. So if I can find the right button to press the clips out, this is the first clip we have. Is there anything you want to say about it before I play it?
Well, this first clip is going to introduce us to the timeline. So on February 3rd, that was a Friday, there was a Chinese spy balloon spotted over Montana. And that's really what kicked everything off. It was kind of funny at first because everyone's just throwing around the phrase the balloon. Eric and I actually called each other that Friday night and had a good laugh about it because I said, could you believe it? if we reroute
Yeah,
the
this
clock
is
5
reality
years
in
ago.
2023. All of mainstream news is the balloon. Like, this is, yeah, great.
Yeah, I said, if I told you everybody's talking about the balloon in 5 years from now, would you have any idea what I'm talking about? So this is what kicks it off. This is
Okay.
the initial Tucker Carlson. He's going to talk about the balloon. So why don't you roll that clip for us?
Here we go.
I mean, if you actually think about it, if an EMP was to detonate over the United States in the center, or multiple, we would be facing an all-out collapse.
Is this the right one? Just checking. Let me go back. I don't think I have the right one. Is this the right clip?
That's okay.
Is this the right clip?
No, it's a Tucker Carlson.
All right, let
all
me
right.
pull back because we have multiple clips in here, and I guess they got rearranged. This is clip 0. Maybe I got it out of order. We're gonna go on to the next clip then, and let's play this one. Tucker Carlson. Here we go.
Have a foreign military aircraft over our country, spying on our critical defense installations and posing a threat to civilian aviation. That seems like a big deal.
Position of the balloon classified?
Phil, right now, what we're not going to do is get into a hour-by-hour location of the balloon. Again, we're monitoring it closely. As I mentioned, right now, it's over the center of the continental United States. That's about as specific as I'm going to get.
But I understand it might be inconvenient, but does the public not have a right to know if a balloon
the public
is over their
certainly
state?
has the ability to look up in the sky and see where the balloon is.
And it raises a much bigger question, which is why? What's going on here? What else do they know but refuse to tell us? Well, today, Pentagon sources conceded that the Biden administration has actually been tracking this Chinese spy balloon for months since it left China. That means they watched it float over the Pacific, they watched it pass over the Aleutian Islands and into American airspace. And at any time, they could have shot it down over the water, by the way, risking no life on the ground. But they didn't do that. Why didn't they do that? No one will say. Instead, the trusty Pentagon robot offered this explanation. This is one of the dumbest explanations ever articulated from a podium in Washington. Here it is.
You said that this is violating our airspace, so why not take it down?
We assessed that it does not pose a risk to people on the ground as it currently is traversing the continental United States. And so out of an abundance of caution, cognizant of the potential impact to civilians on the ground from a debris field, right now we're going to continue to monitor and review options.
I have theories on this. What do you guys think?
Oh, I just.
I
think
would
that
just
guy's
say
hilarious.
no.
Sorry.
Well,
go ahead,
yeah,
Eric.
well, yeah.
Isn't it funny,
it's
though?
got to be a rare talent to make a career out of, saying nothing by saying as many words as possible. So, but yeah, I would note, at least for this initial clip, note the specificity or lack thereof. And so that's where we started. This is like the setup and the preamble. And so we're going to walk through a timeline to where we are now. So I thought that was interesting, those comments.
Matthew?
Well, imagine if this was any other type of event. Like there's a wildfire, and people are asking, "Is the wildfire contained? Is it safe? Is it okay?" And he just says, look out your window. You see the fire. Anyone can look at the fire and know how it's going." It's so ridiculous of a response. When I first saw that, I laughed so hard. Like that's just so good. It's gold.
Well, I thought
it's a free country. Look for yourself. It's a free country.
Look up in the air. That's how you can tell where it is. American people can look. So I think this is interesting because I truly believe, and I'm going to preamble it with this because I'm going to say some pretty absurd things. I think that I'm sure that we popped a balloon. There was a giant 200-foot balloon, 20-story balloon maybe, that China perhaps was flying over us to do some pretty interesting spying. And I have some theories on what that spying is, and I'll tell you later. But as it was flying over, I don't think all of our radar data caught it. And I think we kind of got caught with our pants down. Is that a term I can use? Because what happened was we had some people that knew about it and some people that didn't know about it, but no one wants to say they didn't know about it, but it went ahead and just let it float across the U.S. And the reason I think that is because NORAD just came out and said, we've reconfigured our radar systems across the U.S. so that we can see smaller objects. Now, I'm using more summarizing terms because now there's much more they can see, and everyone's going berserk about this. Now, I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I think we should continue in the timeline just to kind of see what's going on here, because we had a balloon. What's going to happen to it?
Okay.
So check this out.
Let's see.
Here we go.
Take him out. Oh my God, they shot it down. No way. Took it down.
Wow, that was really good video. Wow, that was really good video. Look at that. How detailed it was.
USA.
Well, I think the significant thing from that, at least from just a vanilla, purely materialistic like standpoint, is is kind of an impressive shot, because that was a pretty high. I mean, it's a high altitude balloon, so they had to send an F-22 Raptor up there, and balloons don't have that much of a radar signature. So there's not typically the two biggest ways that guided weapons are guided are radar or thermal. It's not emitting a heat signature, and I think the only thing that probably had a big radar signature was probably the thing hanging below it. And it was kind of one of those moments when the atomic bombs were dropped. It's like one of those things, it better work, because we're going to look really bad if it doesn't. So I'm surprised they kind of did this during the daytime, but maybe, I mean, they could better see what they're shooting at. But it's good that they hit it, because that would have been a lot worse PR-wise if they had swing and a miss, you know?
What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, definitely an impressive shot. I'm glad that we have that footage. It's exciting, isn't it? It's like a movie.
If I understand this right, this is the first kill, I'm using my finger quotes for those listening, that this new jet that we have, this new fighter jet that we have has gotten. Is that correct? And have you read that?
As far as I heard, it's the first air to, well, I mean, the F-22's been around for a while, but it's the first air-to-air kill that it's been in, because I think it's operated over in the Middle East, but it's I think against ground targets, because there's not much of an air force over there where it was operating. So yeah, that's what I've heard anyway.
We're calling that a kill, by the way.
Put little balloons
take them where you can get them.
Yeah, the World War II fighter aces are rolling in their graves.
Well, I think it's interesting too, because if you look at the close-up, I slowed this thing down and I watched it. That missile, or whatever it was, I forget what the name of it is. I'm sure, Eric, you could tell me what it is, but it's it's one of the newer ones, and it just barely missed. I mean, it went through the very bottom of it. It didn't go towards the top. It didn't go towards the center of this thing. It went through the bottom between where the payload was and where the actual balloon was, and just barely nicked the bottom of it. If you watch the video. Now, I could be seeing that as 2D, and I could be completely wrong here, but I think
it might have had a proximity fuse on it, because a lot of air-to-air, and I wasn't obviously an air combat guy, but I mean, I know that a lot of air-to-air weapons have proximity fuses, because, you know, it's trying to hit something dead on as opposed to just getting close to it and then blowing up. You know, it's a lot easier to do. So that might have been what they did. I don't know the designation of the missile they used, though.
Gotcha. Interesting. Matthew.
Yeah, well, I think it's awesome. I think it's excellent. I mean, the fact that we brought down the balloon, big win for America. But I think it set a lot of gears in motion. A lot of people started talking now about the balloon and the security and the threats that it poses. And one of the things that I predicted early on with this whole balloon episode was that it would turn people's eyes skyward and it would get our minds running. I'm so glad we're still talking about the balloon. I want to tell my grandkids about the balloon. It's so good. But,
I think, I don't know. Brad. I think we're going to look back on this and go, this is the beginning of something that really changed the way the military looks up in the air at small objects. Because this is something I see. I mean, everyone's just beside themselves right now. I mean, you've seen the news. It's absolutely insane what's going on. And I think it's because of just because of the hey, this is a big deal. We need to pay attention to the smaller objects in the sky.
Well, it's not just people in the mainstream media either, Brad. It's people in alternative media as well. Folks like us who are just on YouTube making shows and having these comments. People who normally would never even touch UFO, never even touch this idea, are suddenly coming up with all sorts of interesting theories. As a matter of fact, we have some clips here from a guy named Dan Bongino. Now, I'm not a Dan Bongino viewer, but my good friend Eric is. He never misses an episode. What do they call you guys if you're a fan of Dan Bongino?
No, I get to work from home, so I get to listen to a lot of things while I work. So he's I don't go through all the source material like CNN or all that. So I listen to these people that compile it, and I like the way he presents. He has a little humorous touch to it, and so if we're gonna face the entrance to the Great Tribulation, why not get some laughs out of it, right?
Hey, God's got a sense of humor. He has to.
This is a serious, we're going into a serious issue, but I think that we can get some laughs at it until it starts for sure. Okay, so here is the next clip from Dan Bongino, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Read this story. It's in the newsletter today. Bill Gertz, the Washington Times. It's worth your time. Balloons serve multiple roles in Chinese warfare. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, they've been thinking about this for a long time. Don't think for a second any of this is new. This is a good piece. He talks about this 2009, not 2019, 2009 report from China outlining the use of balloons for, quote, psychological attack.
Oh.
Psychological attack is an important means of information attack, said the report. They note that information warfare involves soft strikes and hard strike methods to shock the enemy psychologically and invoke long-term fear to achieve the goal of victory without battle. Tools include propaganda, pictures, broadcast, television, computer networks, audio-visual periodicals, and the internet. He notes other methods involve hologram image weapons, laser dazzlers, noise simulators, and electronic whistles. They call them thinking control weapons and virtual reality. Folks, China's thinking about holograms and virtual reality hanging from balloons projected to the ground or to the air to scare the hell out of people. Again, do you think this balloon was just some kind of mistake? You think it was an accident?
Oh, that just got serious. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw that and I immediately sent it to the Discord because I was like, this is exactly what our group deals with.
Huh.
Well, it's funny
Interesting.
because he said about it being a hologram to unnerve people. Apparently, you don't even need a hologram. You just float the balloon in with something dead coming from it, and it sends everyone. I love how he said too.
Yeah, this is the uproar over a balloon. Can you imagine a UFO the size of a football stadium? What that would do?
Oh yeah, no kidding. But I like how he said that. Yeah, balloons have a variety of uses within China's military. One of the things I thought of, I was like, birthday parties, wedding anniversaries.
Did you see the Saturday Night Live clip from this? So funny.
No.
If you don't get a chance, go to YouTube, type in SNL and balloon.
Not now.
Oh, it's so. I wish I had grabbed it for the clip because they do a whole skit on the military addressing the balloon and saying, yeah, if we hadn't popped it, I was worried it was going to go. So I mean, he addressed an interesting point though. I thought what was fascinating is he said that it was a psychological warfare because right now we're having all the I think was it Wired magazine. There was a couple of articles that came out that said that the balloon they're thinking. Now follow me on this because I'm gonna totally nerd out on you for a second and geek out because this is my computer science background. Let me take 2 steps back and we're gonna go back in the story about China for a second. China has been caught red-handed stealing our military asset, data files. And so what happened was they were hacking into our military computers. And the way they were doing that is that Supermicro, I think one of the major brands that make hardware for our systems is being produced and their circuit boards are sent over to China to be produced. Chinese government says, "Hey, I need that circuit board. We're gonna look at it real quick, and then we're gonna send it to America. I'll print it out for them." They did that, and this is how China works. I mean, there's not a private sector and the government. It's all one basically. If they say, "Hey, there's private sector right here, and we want something from the private sector," they say, if they don't do it in China, then we'll find a way to shut you down. And that's how they work. And so this is what happened. You can look this up. They said they had this computer equipment that was for our servers, our data centers, come in, and it had a small chip change on it.
I remember that. Yep, I remember the article. Right
around where the Ethernet port was. And they found this because they saw a lot of chatter going back and forth on their servers. I think it was major companies like Amazon, Apple saw this, and they were like, what is going on here? Well, later they found that a lot of their data files, their CAD files for making their large aircraft, their carrier planes that aren't reproduced anywhere else, all of a sudden they started appearing in China, and China wasn't even hiding it. They'd park it right beside ours with tiny changes. And they'd be like at air shows or whatever it was over there. And they were like, hey, look, we have one like you too. How did they do that? They stole it from us. And they were caught red-handed because they can't do that without stealing the actual CAD files from these people. And so what's happening right now is people are wondering, this is a psychological warfare that's happening right now. They're saying, okay, they're flying spy stuff above us with air balloons. What is on there? Well, the first thing people think are cameras. But let's think a little deeper about this. If they were caught sending data. I'm making a long spiel about this to try to understand the story. If they are sending data back through our firewalls and back to them at one time, and now we blocked it. Well, what's to say they don't have small little chips on these boards that are able to Wi-Fi, not Wi-Fi as in we have around here, but able to wirelessly communicate with a large antenna that's about 60,000 feet above the ground. And now that all they have to do is fly this balloon and capture all the keylogger information from all these military personnel. They flew it right over the bases, all over this stuff. And what if this is a little more than psychological warfare, and they really do have the capability to do that? I think that would be interesting, or maybe just psychological. Who knows?
It can play a dual role. I mean, you can psychologically impact people by just doing that blatantly. I mean, if I was to break into your house in broad daylight, it would probably damage you psychologically, but I'd also make off with some of your stuff. So
yeah, balloons in warfare are not new. And in fact, there was this, we don't have any clips of it, but the Japanese during World War II sent over 1,000, and it had bombs attached. And so you guys can look it up. And I think in 1945 or 1947, it killed a pastor's wife and some children in Oregon because they found it in the Oregon woods. They were out for a hike. And so if you see something, and there's descriptions and pictures of what these things look like online. So if you see one ever, don't go near it. But because they're still out there and nobody knows where, they haven't been found yet. But the signals intelligence is like a big thing. And I don't know. I mean, China has satellites. The United States has satellites. The location, you think of photography or imaging, everybody knows where the missile silos are. They're static. They don't move. People know where different bases are. So I'm not 100% sold on that. That's what they're looking at because they have satellites that do that, just like the United States does. So, as we know, it's the great deception. Deception's a part of this. So like the clip said, this was not an accident. There's a lot of things it could be, I think. It's just we don't know what it is right now.
Yeah. Very good. I think we have another clip coming up. Matthew, do you have any comments, or what do you think?
No, I want to see a little more Dan Bongino.
All right. We have him in a white shirt this time. So here, we're going to roll clip.
Now, this is a controversial thing, and I know I'm going to get a lot of negative kind of spillover from this, but I'm not going to reject talking about it for that. A lot of you, I understand, believe that there may be alien life out there and UFOs, and that's fine. I need hard evidence of that. I've had Hugh Ross and others on who've given me explanations as to why they don't believe that's the case. However, I don't want to get into a UFO debate here. However, let me tell you something. What does UFOs have to do with the government, misinformation, our generals, our military, and the Russia hoax? Jenkins is making the point here that, remember, Joe, when the UFO thing came out like a year ago, Tucker was on it, and you and I, before every show, would be like, why are they doing this now?
I sure do.
Are they about to tell us something? Now, some people surmise that maybe they're about to tell us that they know about alien life. Jenkins' point is, no, that's not what they're going to tell you at all. What they were really trying to hide is the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has been spying on us using advanced devices and simple devices like balloons for a long time. You were about to find out about it, so they got you all distracted with the cutesy time UFO debate. Take it or leave it. I'm just putting out there a brilliant point. He says this. Pay attention to every word of this. For those who couldn't figure out why Jenkins, he notes himself, devoted 4 columns to the UFO debate, this is why. It became clear that whether from serendipity or design, national security agencies were using UFOs to hide something they didn't want us to see. That something, which has slowly dribbled out since last May, was Chinese surveillance in U.S. airspace. Suspected Chinese drones have been a sometimes daily presence in the U.S. military training sites going back maybe a decade or more. Sounds like something I said. Now we learn of multiple balloon incursions, too. Whether you believe in UFOs and alien life is totally up to you. It's a totally different show. I'm simply suggesting to you that the UFO leaks were most likely a head fake to get you distracted long enough while the government can still attempt to hide Chinese drones and advanced technology spying on us and us doing nothing about it because we're bought and sold to China.
Thoughts?
Well, Dan, you're right. It is for a different show, and that show is Strange Normal because we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the alien portion of this. I think he's right in that the government, all the information they have surrounding UFOs, the more and more I look into this, the more I pay attention to the mainstream media, the less I believe that disclosure will ever come from a government source. I think it'll always be a diverted thing. It's always going to be, well, even if it's staring you blatantly in the face, and it's going to be like right up until the 11th hour. Then they'll finally go, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's what it is. We knew it was that all along. We were afraid, national security, mass hysteria, blah, 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 whatever they want to say. But it's funny because a lot of people who are unfamiliar with this topic, I don't even want to say secular people, because I think there are a lot of Christians who just don't have a clue that this is going on in the background. But they'll think that it's got to be a rational explanation, that it's, like Chinese technology, that it's some type of an asset from some country that we just simply don't know about because it's a secret program.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any thoughts, Eric?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to. People have, because of the media, there's a lot of things that are pushed by the media as far as conceptions of the military and people who work in the military. And I think it's important to point out that once you get stars on your collar in any of the branches, those are political jobs. You had to do a lot of politics. The officer, progression in all the branches, it's a lot of politicking, even senior enlisted. You get into that once you get into those higher ranks. So these are people who are going to be, they got to their position because they played ball with the system somehow. And, obviously it's the military. So there's the whole following orders things. This guy had, was a 1-star. So I think was he a 1-star? I only saw a 1-star there. Or was he 2-star? General. Can you see?
I
Anyways, doesn't matter. He still has superiors, and so the fact that he's allowed on that podium means they know that he's going to say what he's told to say, and he knows that if he wants to get another star or get whatever his career progression that he wants, he's going to say what they tell him to say. And so the idea of official, and the same thing with the secretaries of each branch of the military, those are political appointments. Those change with each administration. So these are people that are in their positions because they're part of the system. And so whatever narrative the system wants to put out for whatever reason or whatever their purposes are, that's what's getting put out through official channels.
I think it's interesting too. This is a side rabbit trail. I think it's interesting that a lot of these UAP things, going away from the known Chinese 200-foot balloon, have been blamed on weather balloons. Have you noticed that? Isn't that interesting? Just an interesting point that for years and years and years, it's been swamp gas and weather balloons that these demonic entities have been the lie that has been put out by them, by the military. Yeah, it's just swamp gas and weather balloons. That weird light in the sky up there, that's nothing. You got to ball lightning. But hasn't it been also weather balloons? And now we really have balloons that are posing to be, and the government talking about UFOs. Is there an irony in that? I mean, what's going on here?
No, definitely. Brad, we have gone from swamp gas and weather balloons to SpaceX and spy balloons. That's my phrase. That's my take on the matter. That's a great shirt. We'll have that. We'll have that in the store. But yeah, it's ironic, especially because over and over it was weather balloons, and it's just like these weather balloons turn up in the strangest places, and they do the darndest things sometimes, don't they? Those weather balloons.
We have real UAPs out there, and now they were just weather balloons in the 60s. Now we have real weather balloons out there, and they're just UFOs in the news now. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. People. All right, what do we have next?
Looks like
we have.
We're going to talk about this. Is another person. Oh, sorry, Eric. I don't mean to step on your toes, bud.
I was going to say this is another angle of the whole spy balloon. I just before we move on from the Dan Bongino clips. So remember his demeanor and the way that he's talking about this, and kind of the tentative way that he's talking about this for these past two clips, because he's going to come up again, and you're going to see a little bit of a change. So that I thought was interesting. But
let's go for it. Yeah, interesting.
In the 1950s, the United States government started testing nuclear devices detonated from balloons. Enter Project Yukon, the balloon nuclear detonation test as part of Operation Hardtack. Quote, Yukon was the codename of the first unique high-altitude test of a nuclear device ever carried out by a stratospheric balloon. The main goal of the United States Department of Defense and Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory was to study the effect of the detonation of a W-25 air defense warhead at high altitude as part of the developmental work of an anti-ballistic missile. This test, along with two other exo-atmospheric detonations, performed using rocket-borne warheads of a megaton scale codenamed Teak and Orange, were included under Operation Newsreel as part of Operation Hardtack. As occurred in most nuclear tests, it was necessary to set up a series of monitoring stations and instrumented vehicles to retrieve the data at the moment of the explosion. The measurements of the electromagnetic pulse generated by the blast was performed by the Army Signal Research and Development Laboratory from two stations located at Wotho and Kusale, approximately 100 miles and 460 miles from Bikini, respectively. According to the data published in the final report of Hardtack, which was declassified several years later, Yukon provided the first indication in United States testing that high-altitude EMP could be more than 100 times as intense as a low-altitude EMP. So basically what this article is saying is that the United States tested a nuclear device, a very small one at that, on a balloon to measure the effects of the EMP. And what they found was when an EMP is produced or a nuclear device is detonated in high altitude, it creates a pulse that is 1,000 times stronger than the low altitude EMP. Now, what would happen if an EMP actually hit America? Well, according to this report, it doesn't look very good. In fact, a congressional report states that, quote, an EMP attack would kill 90% of all Americans.
Kill?
90%. Quote, In a U.S. House of Representatives hearing on Thursday, members of the recently defunded EMP Commission informed Congress of the devastation an electromagnetic pulse attack could inflict on the country. In a commissioned report, former EMP Commission Chairman William Graham and its former Chief of Staff Peter Vincent Perry referred to North Korea using an EMP as a doomsday scenario. It could use its demonstrated satellite launcher to carry a nuclear weapon over the South Polar region and detonate it over the United States to create a high-altitude electromagnetic pulse. The result could be to shut down the electric U.S. power grid for an indefinite period, leading to the death within a year of up to 90% of all Americans. 90% of Americans. Think about that. And what we just saw flying over our country could be a precursor to this exact scenario.
So, wow, that's morbid. I never thought about that.
That's heavy stuff.
I saw one comment that they were talking about how it was a comment, I think, about the EMP. I don't think it was this video, but they made the connection between like the World Economic Forum, and they said, isn't it interesting how they're trying to get everybody to have electric everything, electric stoves, electric cars, electric all this stuff? Because, it's not 90% like instantaneously, but over time, if you don't get the power back on, you don't get water, you don't get utilities, people start killing each other, eating each other, or whatever would happen with the collapse of modern, technologically driven niceties. Within a year, I could definitely see that. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, I heard you, Brad. You said kill. You're like shocked by that.
90%. I mean, I thought EMPs
90%.
were only electrical magnetic pulses, and so they would affect small electronic devices and render those. I guess everything's controlled by computers now, but
it
90%.
would shut down the power. Yeah, it would shut down the power grid. This isn't just like an EMP wouldn't just make your phone turn off. It would shut down. We're talking like blackout situation, and that's why, paying attention to that article, it said within a year it would be 90%, because there's that many Americans who are dependent on the power grid to survive. I mean, I think there's something to be said for preparing within your means. If you can do certain things to set yourself up for some type of a survival situation, but ultimately, I will say this, I know maybe some people are a little startled, a little nervous about it, because it's a morbid thing, but trust me when I say this, if you are dependent on God, you have nothing to fear.
Yes, that's correct.
Seriously. It's perfect love that drives out the fear. You can stock up water bottles, canned goods, candles, every single thing. If you aren't in communication with God, if you don't have that relationship with him, you might as well just throw all that stuff away, because we know through the Bible, through prophecy, that the determining factor for survival is those who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, which is the spirit of prophecy.
That's Revelation 14:12. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a quote for quote.
And God has shown, plenty of times you can be, like you mentioned, you could have all this stuff stocked up. Well, what if you have to move? Or what if you have to leave? Or what if somebody comes and takes it? If you're relying on that, now what do you have? But, if you could be in the middle of the desert in a cave, and God will make sure you have food and water if you are his and you belong to him. So, because he's done that, but exactly that before.
Yeah. Elijah is a great example of that. Just if anyone wants to read, it's in Kings, First Kings. I forget the chapters, but read the story of Elijah, because he was a man who had the whole world turned against him, and he even cried out. He felt like he was the only man left, but God showed him a vision that there were people still living in a cave and surviving. God takes care of his people. We might not be living in luxury high rise, but we'll be alive and we'll be grateful.
I think it's also interesting, and I don't want to harp on this too much because this isn't for this channel, but I think it's fascinating to mention that when he was being fed by the birds and stuff like that, where was he? He was out in the country, and that's an important. I think a lot of people overlook that nature is what God has. That is where he he thrives. I mean, that's where we will thrive if we were out there further. If you're in the middle of the city, this is where they want to nuke. This is where the bad things happen. So there is something to say. There is a little bit of absolute truth to living a little further out, so that you are a little further out from the chaos that will ensue. And I'm not a full prepper. I do like to have a little bit of supply on me every now and then, but at the same time, I think we need to look at the Bible seriously and say, Jesus grew up in Galilee. That was a country area. Noah, yeah, he built an ark in the mountains. That was in the country area. All these people that were great people of the Bible, they grew up in country areas, and there is something to say about God's people in the end who have to flee to the mountains because of the danger that's happening.
The entire generation that went into the promised land was actually raised in the wilderness. So there you have it. That wilderness builds character. That wilderness teaches a dependence on God that civilization just doesn't always afford you. I'm not saying that it's impossible. Obviously, we have like Daniel is a good example of someone who was living in Babylon, one of the king's highest advisors. So he had a lot of that living around him. But yeah, Brad is right. A lot of examples we can draw from in the Bible where God's people are in the wilderness and they're thriving, as opposed to the people who are in civilization and plagues are being poured out on them. They're suffering. There's a lot of judgment that comes down on cities, and you can avoid some of that by living out in the countryside.
Yeah, absolute. We have another clip coming up. Do you know what that is?
Is this a part 2 of the EMP?
I believe so. It looks like it on my screen. I see a screen cap of a round circle with a map. So you want to jump right into it?
Be it. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Each critical infrastructure in the U.S. is dependent upon other infrastructures, and it has a little diagram here showing you how every bit of this country is interlinked and relies on each other for success. All of the critical functions of U.S. society and related infrastructures, electric power, telecommunications, energy, financial, transportations, emergency services, water, food, etc., have electronic devices embedded in most aspects of their systems, often providing critical controls. Electric power has thus emerged as an essential service underlying U.S. society and all of its other critical infrastructures. Telecommunications has grown to a critical level but may not rise to the same as electrical power in terms of risk to the nation's survival. All other infrastructures and critical functions are dependent upon the support of electric power and telecommunications. Therefore, we must make special efforts to prepare and protect these two high-leverage systems. Basically, what it was saying is one EMP over the United States could collapse the nation permanently. And what just happened now with this balloon should be an eye-opener for everybody.
So I'm ambivalent about the whole. So for those of you who don't know like how an EMP works, and I have like kind of like a cursory understanding, it's not just that it shuts off your phone and all you have to do is like reboot your phone. It's a surge of electricity that shorts out microcircuitry, so it just destroys it. It's non-operational. Like if you dropped it in the bathtub or something like that. So a lot of things, and there's shielding, there's ways to protect against it. A lot of military assets are hardened. It's called hardening, EMP hardening, but most civilian things aren't to the level that they would need to be to survive something like this. But the thing that I wonder about that gets me, it's like when I see stuff like this, it's like, okay, how does it figure into the Great Deception? It's well, you can call them the elites, the occultists, who are human servants of Satan who are running things, right? Yeah, air quotes, elites. The internet and all these, smartphones and technology and social media are an amazing tool that they are actively, seems, planning on using to control and monitor people. So I'm wondering if they would really risk losing all that. Because if you think about it, if you don't have smartphones anymore, everybody's on social media, everybody has a GPS locator in their pocket. So you lose all of that. Well, they lose all of their ability to watch and control people, which seems to be what they're building up on. So I kind of wonder where this is going to go. That's just my thought process anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, I have a hard time. I understand how EMP works. I've seen how EMP works, but I have a hard time realizing that we could get an EMP that could really affect all of our microelectronic devices across a large area, especially a statewide. I find that hard to believe, except if it wasn't necessarily an EMP. It was more like a solar flare, which we know fried a lot of electronic equipment back in the day when they had boop, 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 Morse code. It caused a lot of grief. If you look, I forget what the name of it was, but this was a big deal. It caused fires to go on top. They said on top of the telephone lines because of the magnetic pulse that came from the solar flare. And I believe, this is my personal belief, not saying this is biblical or anything from inspiration or anything like that, but what I think is, since Satan, and all his minions are not all knowing, they can't know everything. They've got to plan, and test to make sure their plan is going to go out. And so they carry out these tiny tests all throughout history. I mean, you think back on the worst scenarios you could imagine. Things like the Holocaust. Things about the things that have happened terribly. All the disasters that have happened. They've tested, they've planned for this scenario, and they've longed for to be able to touch the world and the weather the way that it's going to be touched. And so when we see things that have happened in the past, like great earthquakes in San Francisco, it's going to be that. It's going to be worse. But it's also going to be that we have a Savior and we have Jesus Christ. And if we are those people that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus Christ, we're going to be untouchable. Not anything in and of ourselves, but because we are those saints that will not see death. We will go and be with Christ when he comes and he returns. And so we have that to think about. We have another clip, unless you have another idea or thought.
No, I think we'll just introduce this clip a little bit because we're now moving forward. So we're jumping forward a week. This was Friday, February 3rd, and Saturday, February 4th. Now, and I think it's interesting, too, that these occurred as they did on Fridays because you have the whole world is now able to talk about this because you have off of work, everyone's hanging out. So the big news, you drop this like bombshell on Friday. It happens in news cycles. I think it's interesting, but not to say it's just coincidental, maybe. I don't know. But we're now jumping forward. February 10th, it's a Friday, and a UFO has been shot down in northern Alaska. So
fascinating. Here we go.
Clip.
North American Aerospace Defense Command detected an object on ground radar and further investigated and identified the object using fighter aircraft. The object was flying at an altitude of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. U.S. Northern Command is beginning recovery operations now.
Well, our North America editor Sarah Smith is at the White House. Sarah, what's the latest?
Well, it is intriguing, Clive, how little they have been able to tell us about this object, and that's because the US authorities know very little about it at all. They admit they don't know what it was, whether it was a balloon or a drone or some other kind of object. They don't know what country it came from. They also admit that they've no idea who owned it, whether it was a nation or a corporation or an individual. They don't know what its purpose was, and they don't know whether it posed any kind of security threat. So why then, you might ask, did they move so swiftly to shoot it down? Well, it's worth noting that there has been a huge amount of criticism here in Washington about how long it took to shoot down that Chinese balloon that was floating across the country last week. Now, security officials say that is not why they moved so swiftly in this instance. It's because the object was at around 40,000 feet and a threat to civilian planes, and also because it floated over water, which meant they were able to take it down without the risk of any casualties on the ground. All President Biden has said about it is, it was a success.
Was a success. So we don't know anything.
But it was a success, Bradley. Well, it's interesting. So we had so now we're shifted forward, and suddenly we're shooting down UFO. We're not saying it's a balloon. We're not saying it's a drone. We're not saying it's anything. I think it was interesting how she said it was floating, because I mean that kind of puts balloon in your mind. but there was nothing to say it was a balloon. It was just anything. And I remember the report saying that it was different in size and shape than the Chinese spy balloon that was shot down.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It was a cylindrical shape, right? This one? Or was this another one?
I believe this one was cylindrically shaped. There've been some really wacky reports as to what this is, and we can't seem to get a straight answer. It's funny. If you look up even now, the articles that are coming out as recently as 3-4 hours ago, it's like it's becoming a thing where politicians are demanding that the Biden administration start giving an answer and start definitively saying what these UFOs are, because there is just so little information about it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it was a success. I mean, whatever it was. It's a shame we couldn't get more footage. We loved that footage of the balloon being shot down. I wish we had some footage of this.
Where was this one shot down?
Northern Alaska.
Okay, yeah. I do remember that.
Eric, it looks like you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say, she's going on there about, oh, the government said this and the government said that, so this is how it is. And it's like, if the past, or a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, especially over the past couple of years, that the government lies to people. If this is a new idea to anybody watching, there's all kinds of history books that you can read about the topic and lots of examples. So, again, and that kind of made me think of what you said, Matthew. You mentioned about how there's not going to be official widespread disclosure. Even if there was, half of it's lies, at least, so what you can really trust is God's word, and everything else we're kind of just sitting back and watching the show. But
yeah, if we did disclose all this, we lose all of our
toilet paper.
You're having fun with that voice changer, aren't you?
What would we do? We wouldn't have any toilet paper anymore. So I think that's a big deal, because we don't want to lose our toilet paper again.
Yeah, we can get a bunch of toilet paper and throw it at these UFOs.
I don't know that it's going to be, they're going to do the toilet paper gag again. They'll move on to the next gag. Like it's going to be frozen peas or something, canned peaches or something like that. We're going to run out. I don't know.
Good point.
Okay. Yeah. So, unless you have any comments, I can move on to this next clip here.
Oh, well, this next clip is going to be, just to introduce it. So that was Friday. We had a shoot down in northern Alaska. All these events transpire over 3 days. So I just want to make sure that everyone who's viewing gets it clear in their head, because it can get a little bit tangled if you don't know. So we're moving on to Saturday now. This is Saturday, February the 11th. And another UFO is getting shot down. It's getting shot down in the Yukon region of Canada. And the Yukon is the region that borders on Alaska. So it's in a similar area as the one that was shot down on Friday.
Is this the one with tentacles? This is the jellyfish one?
I think the jellyfish one is going to be that was yesterday.
Oh, okay.
That was on Sunday. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah. All right, here we go.
But first, I want to bring you some breaking news that's just come into us here at Sky in the last few minutes. It's come from a tweet from the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, who has said on Twitter, I ordered the takedown of an unidentified object that violated Canadian airspace. At NORAD command, shot down the object over the Yukon. Canadian and US aircraft were scrambled and a US F-22 successfully fired at the object. The Prime Minister goes on to say that he spoke with President Biden this afternoon. Canadian forces will now recover and analyse the wreckage of the object. And he goes on to thank NORAD for keeping watch over North America. Now, this is the third object that has been spotted over North America in just the past week. You'll remember, of course, that the US Air Force shot down a Chinese spy balloon last week. An unidentified object, which was described as the size of a small car, was taken down on Friday. And now a third one taken down over the Yukon. The Canadian Prime Minister telling us that, the North American Command taking charge and bringing that object down. And of course, when we get more detail on this third object flying over North America that has been brought down by the armed forces there, we'll bring that to you here throughout the evening on Sky News.
So this one's another one. The second one was the size of a car. This third one, they're not giving a lot of information about it. What are you doing? Hand
I'm
signals?
just throwing up my hands. I'm just like, what's going on? There's just so many UFOs. It's a smorgasbord of shapes and sizes. So it's very frustrating, like even looking through this stuff, because you can't get definitive answers. It's all so obscured.
So at this point, are we dealing with balloons still? That's what I really want to know, because what I heard, and this is just the news, the news can be wrong too, but what I heard was they said they've sent some fighters up there and they couldn't find it. And that's indicative of UAPs, because they can be there and not, because they're not always physical.
So what you just mentioned was actually an entirely separate incident.
Really?
This is crazy. Yeah, this is insane. That happened on Saturday. It happened on the same day. There were radars in Montana that picked up activity, and they scrambled the jets. They sent them out, and they didn't find anything. Nothing.
Huh.
So that one turned out to be a dud, which is interesting because I have some experience through the Navy with monitoring equipment. I was a sonar technician. So when I would be looking at my sonar screen, sitting at the stack, that's what we called it. We called it the stack. So there I am scrolling my grams on the stack for all my sonar technicians. I know we've got to have at least one other one out there. But there would be random things that would pop up, and usually they're just unexplainable. Sometimes they say, oh, it's like an artifact. It's just a little blip. And that's what it is. We're not going to investigate it. We're not going to, do anything crazy. We're not even going to mark it, really. We just see that it's anomalous, and that's what it is. So I think them tuning their instruments, and I'm guessing there was a general order given that normally things that you would just say, well, it's kind of whatever, pass it by. It's now, we are on red alert. If you see this thing, you report this thing, and we investigate it. So I imagine there's more than just this incident in Montana that happened. I think there's it's probably happening a lot, but for some reason that became a story as well. But this is
there's
Yukon. Yeah.
I kind of go the other way of well, when you talk about the they've known there's the other side of like this has been happening for a while, according to some sources. And so what I think could be the case, you could be right, Matthew, just as likely of an explanation would be that they know that this has been going on for a while, and now they know that people are looking up and that they have more scrutiny on them. So they're making a show. They could be making a show of like shooting these things down or going after them to make it look like they're taking action, or like, oh, look at how, and it could do with the current administration and their goals, their PR goals or something like that. But I don't think this is something that they just, and again, I don't know too much about specifics when it comes to radar, military radar, but you can read books even like when they were developing like the stealth stuff, and they had radars back then that were just like, they're pretty advanced and they can pick up a lot of stuff. So to say that they had that Tucker clip, that I think it was that first Tucker clip where he talked about how they tracked it from China through Alaska. So if they're there, I think they've known all along, and it's possible they're just putting on a show right now. Maybe. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting. But I also have heard NORAD actually say that we absolutely have reconfigured our radars. I don't know how that's possible, because you can reconfigure all radars. Maybe the ones that track these things. Maybe the ones that are primary located on the coast. I don't know. Maybe the Seattle Needle. I don't know. Whatever these things are that track these balloons. That go after these things, they must track these things, and maybe they reconfigured just those specific ones to track things that are smaller. Maybe they try to get rid of the anomalies, because there's noise in all equipment that track radio waves or light or frequencies, or vibrations. Boy, I sound like a new ager. Anything that you got your vibrations.
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, it was like Matt said, a lot of times you're just not paying attention. It's like, it's not that you don't know it's there. It's just like, this isn't what we're looking for at the moment. So we just brush it aside, you know? So yeah, it could absolutely be some of that. There's a lot, I mean, equipment like this, there's a lot that you can do to manipulate it to hone in on something that you're looking for. So if before they weren't looking for it and now they are, it's possible you're finding more stuff. But again, then we have to consider, you know, this is what Strange Normal does, is it's not just balloons, you know, so what else is it that they're looking for? And I thought I'm honestly confused at this point which shoot down we're covering, because they had one over the Yukon, there's one over the Lake Huron. Are we going to get to that? Is that coming up?
That would be the following day. See, this is.
I think so. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll save it.
This is
for
Saturday.
Sorry to get ahead of.
This is Saturday.
Right.
This is the Yukon.
Yeah. This is why we need to do a special episode, because all of this happened in the past like 3 days.
I know.
It is mind-boggling. It's so much stuff. I'm so glad that we went live, and thank you everyone who's out there, who's watching it live.
Hit that little like button.
Hit that little like button, why don't you?
Smash it. It's a free like. Comment. Tell us where you are. See if we're international yet. See if we're getting out of these little closed-in states here that we're in, and that we can actually talk a little bit more about this. Because things are happening here in the States, and this is where it's, according to what we believe, where it's all going to begin. And not that we're anything special, only that we we don't want it to start here. But it's going to be something interesting, that's for sure.
Oh, Bradley, I think I spot a UFO right now.
Where? Where is it?
It's on
here.
Your shirt.
If you want,
did you guys plan that while I was offline?
You can come to strangenormal.org/store, and we have a whole T-shirt system up there that shows different things you can wear. This one specifically talks about the UFOs as if it says, but as in the days of Noah. This is Matthew 14:37-39. It took them all away. So this is what this is playing on, is the idea that, hey, what took them away in Noah's time? It was actually the flood. It took the sinners away, and what is expected of a lot of people, New Agers, and some even in the Christian field, are expecting that there's going to be something coming and taking them away. Now, we know that the second coming is happening, but they also believe that there's going to be some UFO things happening and taking them away, as in a secret rapture. What if we're seeing something else take them away? So I think that's an interesting theory. I'm not going to go too far on that, because it's not, I don't know how biblical that is, but I mean, come on, it's interesting. Go to our store.
That shirt is a real thinker.
It's a thinker shirt. Yeah, it takes a little explanation, but we got a lot of other ones up there, like the Scooby-Doo one, that doesn't take a lot of thinking to kind of get to, but it's kind of funny. So,
and it's just shirts, right, Brad? If I go to the store, I can just expect to find shirts, and that's it. Shirts,
mugs, stickers. We might get your. I'm not going to say it.
You don't want to say it. You don't want to send the people into a frenzy.
Oh my goodness! No, I tried to get the fanny pack up there.
With manny whack.
And it wouldn't let me. So I'm gonna attempt it again if you guys really want it. But I just don't believe there's that many people that are gonna want a fanny pack with the logo on it.
Just do a limited run. It might be a limited run, and then it could even be printed like this is 1 of 15. You know, and you can
for
put
the
it on
next
your
clip. We're rolling.
If we discovered that space aliens were planning to attack, and we needed a massive buildup to counter the space alien threat, and really inflation and budget deficits took secondary place to that, this slump would be over in 18 months. And then if we discovered, whoops, we made a mistake, there aren't actually any space aliens.
So we need Orson Welles, is what you're saying.
No, there was a Twilight Zone episode like this in which scientists fake an alien threat in order to achieve world peace. Well, this time we don't need it. We need it in order to get some fiscal stimulus.
Or to justify more hyperinflation and distract from the utter failure of an administration that old Joe is in charge of. And by the way, Paul Krugman didn't just come up with this idea off the top of his head. He put a lot of thought into it.
I actually have a serious proposal, which is that we have to get a bunch of scientists to tell us that we're facing a threatened alien invasion. And in order to be prepared for that alien invasion, we have to do things like build high-speed rail and
pass the Green New Deal, right? No, this is not his original idea. In the 1960s, a book was published called The Report from Iron Mountain, claiming to be a secretly leaked document from an elite think tank that outlined how world peace would be bad for the economy. And if the military-industrial complex slowed down too much, if the world got too peaceful, that they would have to jumpstart it again through false flags. And they also proposed faking an alien threat. Later, the author claimed that it was just satire and it was meant to raise awareness about the military-industrial complex and their lust for war and the money that it makes. But others believe that him claiming that it was just satire was just a cover-up because they believe that it was real.
I thought I was talking a moment there. I was like, how does this, what is this voice coming from? Who was that?
That was
Mark Dice. He's a political commentator, but he actually goes into a lot about the occult leanings and things that go on behind the scenes of people in Hollywood politics, and he's written books on it, the satanic rituals, things like that, the propaganda. Actually, literally a lot of his stuff seems to be along the same lines as Little Light, as far as what he talks about. But yeah, he's been talking about especially like the CIA. So we had that Jim Semiman interview where he was talking about like MK Ultra, and Mark has talked about that, Operation Mockingbird, which is the CIA's involvement with mainstream news. And so he's on it when it comes to that type of stuff. And so it's kind of an interesting, the thing that I noticed with all of this media is like the fringe people and the alternate media people pick it up first, like the Dan Bonginos. Well, actually, Dan Bongino was like, I think Mark Dice probably had it a little first, but they get it, and then it comes to the mainstream. So by the time it's out in the mainstream, people have already been talking about it, in the alternative media circles for quite a while. So,
thoughts on that, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, just a word on mainstream media. Mainstream media is like dinosaur media at this point. Really, this is where it's at. A lot of people, they get their information through sources like this, Strange Normal, like they'll come on and watch something. That's how I get a lot of, man, I can't think of the last time I actually made an effort to tune in and be like, you know what, I'm going to sit down and watch Fox News tonight.
It's a loop anyway.
Yeah,
if you watch it.
Yeah, if you sit there for 3 hours, you'll see 3 different shows and they just talk about the same thing over and over. And no mistaking there. It's because it's an establishment and they have talking points and they're going to toe the line. I mean, it's interesting. Eric brought up the Operation Mockingbird. For those of you who don't know, their CIA has messed around, and basically the idea is a mockingbird mimics the sound that it hears. Well, the mainstream media is a mockingbird for the CIA, other intelligence agencies, letting the American people know what they think you should know and be focused on. But the real meat of that clip was the guy talking about faking an alien invasion. I think that's very interesting because if you think about it, there is an alien invasion being faked. The fallen angels are going to pose as these inhabitants of far distant planets.
Right.
And they're going to, I imagine they'll warn the planet of an impending invasion from an evil alien race.
Mm-hmm.
That will be Jesus Christ and his angels coming for us. They'll say, this is bad news. We've dealt with them in some gamma quadrant of the galaxy, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they dealt us a major defeat, but we believe we can beat them because you humans have something special about you. I think it's going to tie in to be more spiritual. I think we all can kind of agree on that. There'll be a technological aspect to it, I'm sure, but the real secret is going to be we're spiritual beings, and there is a spiritual realm that we interact with that goes unseen, and that's really where our power lies.
I'm going to go ahead and play that clip right there that we're talking about Marno. Speaking of that, I just want to see if I actually have it. While you were talking about that, it reminded me of this former occultist that his name is Roger Marno. He's got a 3.5-hour video before he died talking about what is actually going to happen before the end. And this is a short clip.
And the priest told us, could I have a little bit more? Your time I want to tell you something very fascinating. He says the grain plane, the master's grain plane, for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. So we continued, after we expressed ourselves that we're deeply interested to know more about the activities of the spirits. And he said it's going to be done in a unique manner. This grain plane is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because he says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid
it. So it's got actually a lot more than that short clip, but that gives you the synopsis. Go watch that. That's an interesting 3.5 hours. If you podcast, that's a good one.
Yeah, did we miss NORAD, the stuff about NORAD, or are we supposed to get to that coming up?
Well, we were plugging the merch, and then I think we just kind of flew ahead a little bit. But we can talk about NORAD because Eric here had done some interesting digging. NORAD is responsible for shooting down the UFO that was in the Yukon. So Eric, take it away.
Oh wow.
Well, great, put me on the spot. No, if you've seen NORAD is at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, and if you've ever seen the film Stargate or War Games, the Cheyenne Missile Complex with the huge 25-ton blast door, that's part of NORAD. It's like an alternate command center for NORAD in case things happen. They used to be in there 24/7. I guess now they're not, but that is also home to, now that we have the U.S. Space Force, it's Space Base Delta 1. And, do you have the insignia there for that, Brad, that you can pop on the screen?
Hold on, Bradley. I'm going to get that. I don't think I grabbed that. I completely forgot about it. Keep talking.
Yeah. So when NORAD, it's kind of a fusion center is how I think of it. They get all the radar data from all these different. I think it's also a joint command. They've got some Canadians there because it covers the whole of. Basically, the fear was during the Cold War that the Soviet missiles would come over the poles. So that would also include it'd come over Canada. There's I think it's called the Defense Early Warning System, the DEW line. They had a whole bunch of radar towers spread out across northern Canada to catch Soviet missiles in case they tried to do a sneak attack. And so that's why they built that Cheyenne Missile Complex as underneath, I don't know how many thousands of feet of solid rock. It's pretty well supplied, and it's got those blast doors, and they call it, when they button it up is what they call it. They close those blast doors, and basically they're sealed in, and they can act as like a command and control for the air defense for North America. So when you're hearing NORAD in the news, that's kind of the entity. They still exist. I mean, their mission is kind of still the same. They take all the data and they process it and assemble it all so it makes sense. So that's who the player that you're hearing about in the news. And however, now that we have a Space Force, this is would you have the image, Brad?
Yeah, here we go. I'm going to cut it over because I don't have a good way to display it, but I'm going to cut it over so people can see it right now. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to cut back to our show here. 6-headed.
Leave it up for a second. Leave it up for a second.
Brad.
I can't hear
you. People need to know.
I can't hear you and have it up at the same time because I don't have it built into the system yet. But
okay.
Maybe is it all right if just count to 10 and I'll quickly explain what's going on, because this is a sneaky one. People deserve to know, Brad.
No, yeah, and I want to. Let me see. Maybe I can. This is live, folks. I'm going to try to turn.
This is a trippy thing. When you guys see this, it's one of those moments where you're gonna be like, "Whoa!"
All right, I'm gonna click it over, but I'm gonna tell you guys when you can talk because I gotta unmute you. Here we go. Let's see if we can unmute them. All right, go ahead and talk. See if we can hear. No, we can't hear you yet. Yeah, this thing. Well, I'm going to switch back because I can't get back to it. Yeah, so since that wasn't built out in the system before the show, then I can't show it and you and the same thing and hear you. So anyway, tell us about it because they saw it. What? Why can't we hear you now? Wait. Oh my goodness. Live shows are crazy. Now you're able to talk. Okay, go ahead now.
Okay, I can be heard.
Yes.
All right, that image is fresh in their mind. They know what it's about. That was what you just saw was a 6-headed hydra. The necks form the number 6 in the center, and there are 6 claws gripping the earth.
And also one star above it all. Now, I'll give you one guess as to who that represents.
Wow.
And it's not Jesus Christ.
Isn't that trippy? Isn't that crazy?
All right, I'm going to switch back just so they can see it now that you've explained that, just for a real quick reference.
Look at the 6 in the center of it, too. It's very blatant.
Wow. Okay, so explain to us again, what is this for? Whose logo is this?
So this is the space-based Delta. It's part of the U.S. space, the recently created U.S. Space Force, and I think they had another name. It was the Peterson Shriver Garrison, because Peterson Shriver, that might be a joint base, Air Force Base Peterson, but they operate out of Peterson Air Force Base, and they have some stuff in that Cheyenne a mountain complex. And so this is the insignia, and this is not, I mean, if you join the Discord, we made a whole list of postings of like military patches and mission patches, the Apollo mission patches, like the occult satanic symbolism is just everywhere in the military. And you know what's wild is, like, at least me, when I was in it, I didn't even pay attention to it. Like, it was, you'd see it, oh, that's a cool patch, or that's
interesting,
looks neat. But you don't think about the subtext or what they're at. And somebody made a decision, and I wonder how the illustrating process goes, like what the approval process is, and at what point the person who is like worshiping Satan actually draw, oh, we're going to change it to this and have this 6 there, because somebody made a decision. They went through a lot of iterations, and it was approved, and this is their official shield or patch or whatever. So,
well, it was made by Satanists, it was approved by Satanists, and it's for Satanists. So that's how it gets out there. But yeah,
is this a real patch? Because it's hard for me to believe that someone would make.
Google space-based Delta 1.
I will.
Verify it, please. Trust us, but verify the information. We're totally open to scrutiny. It's there's a lot of command patches, Brad. Maybe we'll do that at some point. We'll walk through in a future episode. Maybe next time what is your mind blown?
Yeah.
I'm at the .mil website, so it's an official website. And
it's .mil. This is not some kooky conspiracy stuff. We know. We're hard hitting. That's what you come to Strange Normal for. You're gonna get the truth.
That's amazing. Truth. I'm blown away that this is actually a patch. Hey, let's just put a 6-headed dragon on the front.
6-headed dragon.
Oh my
6 in the center of it. 6 claws. You got it there. It's the complete
and the Morning Star. Don't forget the Morning Star.
And the Morning Star, which is sitting above it. And they always position themselves on top of the world. You know what, Bradley? Honestly, we could talk about this for a while. Maybe in a future episode, we'll pick up some patches and we'll just run through them for a little while. Because a lot of people probably who are viewing have never heard of this sort of stuff, and it will blow your mind. I mean, I know a lot of people who are familiar with like Illuminati, Masonic symbolism in the mainstream pop culture. Not a lot of people cover the military patches. It's insane.
So remember, when you're getting these briefings from these military officers or about these organizations like NORAD, these are the organizations that are giving the information. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, interesting. All right, next clip we have Dan again. The Dan.
Yeah, so
Bongino.
notice the change in his tone and just this will be an interesting change. Or you want to say something, Matthew?
Just so we know, in the timeline, we are now at Sunday. The Lake Huron UFO has been shot down. This has been described as octagonal. It's been described as strings coming off of it. This thing's crazy. It's doing all sorts of stuff.
It's also been described as interfering with sensors and having no visible means of propulsion. I think that was this UFO as well. Am I correct on that, Matthew?
Yes, it's all just getting wackier and wackier. By next weekend, we're gonna have some really wild UFOs. But this one was throwing me for a loop because of the descriptions that were tied to it. So it's been shot down. The weekend is coming to a close, and this little clip that we're about to see from our little buddy Dan Bongino, maybe not little, maybe, I don't know. I've never met the guy. I'm sorry, Dan, if you're watching. But yeah, he's going to talk us through. This is post-weekend. This is from today, a fresh clip. Let's get into it.
Folks, that gets us to point number 2. What are these things? Kind of a big question, right? It's like I just thought about this weekend. You know, I'm a pretty simple dude, right? Occam's razor. When in doubt, go with the simplest explanation possible. So we've got a bunch of things we allegedly don't know what they are that are invading our airspace pretty much on a daily, multiple time basis now. I don't know. Call me crazy, fellas. Am I exaggerating? That to me sounds like the definition of a problem. What is this? Where are they from? Are they collecting something? Why the secrecy? Why is the government lying? Here, however, is the by far strangest sound of the weekend. There's an interview with the U.S. Air Force senior leader who is affiliated with NORAD, the North American radar conglomerate there that controls the radar picture over North America, right? And a reporter asked a pretty good question. I'm sure a lot of idiots laughed, but the reporter's like, listen, a lot of people are asking us if this is some kind of alien life form, which would sound to me like a BFD, big deal. And the Air Force guy says this.
Because you still haven't been able to tell us what these things are that we are shooting out of the sky, that raises the question, have you ruled out aliens or extraterrestrials? And if so, why? Because that is what everyone is asking us right now.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Helene. I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything at this point. We continue to assess every threat or potential threat unknown that approaches North America with an attempt to identify it.
What? No, the haven't ruled out anything has gotten a lot of attention. The Air Force and a lot of senior military leaders immediately came out and were like, hey, we're not saying this is aliens. We don't think this is aliens. We think it's other things. I totally get that. However, the constant back and forth, folks, is really not helping. Between the statements and then the retractions and then the clarifications and then the new statements and then the new retractions and the new clarifications, it's not helping.
Not helping.
Yeah,
What do you think of that one?
That took my mind to deception because not only so it's just it's chaos right now. It's confusion. It's like, what are these things we have? You say it's one thing, then you say it's another thing, then you say we don't know, and it's like he spent an entire third of his show, and we got a couple more clips from him. But before, it was just like a kind of like snippets, parts of his show. He spent a third of his show this morning talking about this. So that's where we're at. Like, I don't know, maybe tomorrow will be the whole show. Who knows? But yeah, the confusion that this is, and I think it's deliberate. I mean, at some level, it's deliberate, the messaging that they're putting out to confuse people and make people think they're confused.
Interesting.
Bradley, I got to ask you, what did you think when that military official said, we're not ruling out aliens?
So that was amazing to me because I back when it would be absolutely not. I mean, you guys are crazy. But now it's kind of like, well, we're not ruling out anything. It could be extraterrestrials. Who says that? Wow. I mean, my mind is blown to have someone stand up there. Well, we're not going to rule out anything at this moment. That tells me you're not sure about anything. There's not enough data on this stuff right now. And if he doesn't know, then he's like, I'm not going to say anything at this point. It could be Martians. I mean, come on. I mean, that's the internal me goes. I know what these things are. I mean,
yeah.
This is my rhetoric. I take I respect all opinions on this, and Eric, don't get offended by this, but I think that what's going on here is primarily the devil needed more visibility of what's going on here. We weren't giving him enough eyesight, because what he wants is us to contact these things in a disaster. So he has to have more top-of-the-mind awareness about these things happening. And so why don't we send over a couple balloons so that they have to reconfigure their radars so they can see these demonic presences in their sky? Then everyone's going to go berserk. The media is going to pick it up, and everyone's going to think about these things if something bad happens. That's my personal belief. I don't know. Maybe it is the clan of Satan worshipers that is absolutely down to make us think about UFOs. I don't know. But my beliefs are always more spiritual. I mean, not that it sounds like that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I'm thinking about this from a spiritual perspective. When I hear someone say they are doing this, I think the spiritual realm is doing this.
Yes.
And so that's my opinion.
Well, they're working through human agents, though, and that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the people, it's not just going to be demons coming out of the sky and manifesting, and they've always had human agents. They still have human agents, and their human agents are the ones carrying this out. And I don't know how the legal system works in the spirit realm. I know there is a legal system, and there's things they can do, things they can't do. I don't know how any of that, the mechanics of how that works. But it's going to involve, well, that's the thing. There's so many pieces on the board now, trying to figure out all the possible ways they can move. I mean, we're speculating at this point. I just know that these current events are significant, and it behooves us to pay attention to what's going on, because this is it's not happening for no reason. And it just, case in point, everybody's talking about it right now. So whatever, if that's the purpose, they succeeded, because it's all over the place.
And I just want to make a quick appeal. If you think this is an important topic, if you think that this is something that we should cover more of, that we should do these special reports, because usually we operate on Thursday nights, not Tuesday nights. Is this Tuesday? Is this Monday?
This is Monday, bro.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. I'm already thinking it was Tuesday. If you think we should do this more often, help us. Come join our Patreon, become a researcher, because that's how you can do that. When you become a part of the Patreon system, you become into our Discord server, and you can be communicating with us and saying, "Hey, this is a part of this. This is interesting. This is another tidbit. This is helpful. This is how I met these guys, because they are a part of the Patreon system, part of the Discord system, and we are researching this and trying to figure this out together." And that's the whole point of this whole thing. All the money doesn't go to me. It goes to advertising and to promoting the idea that these are absolutely demonic entities and this is a part of prophecy that the churches aren't talking about. And so if you think that's important, help us out. Patreon.com/strangenormal. Commercial over. Do we have another clip?
I think we have a little more Dan in store.
All right, let's do it.
So these things started as a Chinese spy balloon, and now it's turned into a search for objects in the sky. Objects. Why would you say objects? Because an object could be anything. Could be a mug. Could be a squeezy device you use to get some blood flow back in your hands. Could be a bunch of oil sheets to take oil off your face before a show. Could be anything. What are they shooting down exactly? They love these word games. Red State's got a good piece about this. Object shot down over Canada was similar to what was shot down in Alaska. Pilots divulge more concerning info. Yeah, you think? What are the objects? Now, there's a lot of videos going around online about there's some pretty frightening ones out of Montana. Well, air them. I'm afraid to, folks. I can't verify it, and although it probably makes for good clicks, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not worth it for me to put up a video that I can't confirm or have other people I trust confirm. I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not suggesting that they're faked, or I'm just telling you I don't have the ability to be irresponsible. I'm just telling you the Montana videos, if they're real, are really disturbing. Like, what the hell are these things? Again, I've got some theories, but before we get to that, I want to play some more audio here. There are a number of possible explanations. And as reasonable people, unlike leftist lunatics and government swamp rats trying to deceive us all the time, we have to go and always use Occam's razor, right? Keep it simple, stupid. The simplest explanation is not always, but almost always the right and correct one. The first explanation I find plausible, very plausible, is that this could be some advanced technology to spoof our sensors. Think about it. There isn't a more powerful weapon out there than to get people to think they see things like they don't see.
Oh, I was so into what he was saying, I forgot to switch back to us.
Yeah, Eric, I think you might have gained a couple of viewers for Dan Bongino. That's the most I've ever watched of him. He's engaging. He's a passionate guy, and I like how he was like, "I'm not going to air anything I can't verify." He's got journalistic integrity, and I
absolutely. You should like him. He's from New York. He's from Brooklyn, I think.
Oh wow.
So.
Yeah. Not exactly my neck of the woods. I'm a Long Island guy.
One of Long Island snobs, or I don't know what they call people from Long Island.
Well, I mean, apparently Long Island snobs is what they call us. No, but yeah, Dan was great. I like how you could see the exasperation. He's making it funny, but at the same time, he's saying, "What are these things? Like, I want answers."
It's the top story for every news agencies right now. I mean, even I follow this guy on YouTube, Redacted, and I just every now and then I'll tune in. I was floored to hear them talking about UAPs as the top story today. That they're former Fox News anchors that became rogue and decided that they wanted to do their own thing and then talk about things that the mainstream media wouldn't let them talk about. And so it's a wife and husband duet, and it's an interesting podcast. But they sometimes have things right. They didn't have the UFO thing right, obviously, because they don't have our mindset on this. But I thought that was fascinating that they actually went into this. So it's on everyone's radar right now. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy. And yeah, this is a developing story. So by the time Thursday night rolls around, there's probably going to be something else to talk about. So if you're here first time viewing, or if you're one of our regular viewers, check out Thursday night, because there'll be a little follow-up. There has to be. I mean, everyone is demanding answers. We want to know, what is this thing? And this is like right up our alley.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to see this play out. It's a little bit of vindication, I think, for us, because if you share some of these ideas with people, they might think you're crazy. They might think you're a total kook, but it's grounded. There's something to this, and that's why we're coming live tonight, because the iron is hot. I mean, we just came off of a crazy weekend, and I'm sure there's more in store.
Absolutely. And because of this, and because of all this stuff that's happening on this channel, and because this whole thing started because of a documentary called Starfall, which we've already talked about on the show. But we're going around to different churches. Mikey and I this weekend are going to be in Chicago talking about this exact thing and what's actually happening, because of people just like you that have told their pastor, "Hey, look at this documentary. Is this biblical?" And they say, "Yeah, this is biblical. Let's have this guy up here. Let's talk about this, because it needs to be an open discussion about this stuff. We don't need to make this push this under the carpet anymore. This is a legitimate problem that's going to be facing all of the earth here pretty soon. It's called spiritualism in the Bible, and it is what is it? Friendly spirits, friendly, whatever it's called. I forget the term.
Familiar
spirits.
Familiar. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Familiar spirits. Yeah, they're not very friendly, and so this is going to be a problem. And they're going to pose themselves as friendly, but they're absolutely out to do absolute damage. And watch starfallmovie.com. That's the URL you go to. Go to starfallmovie.com to watch Starfall. It's a good.
You'll get it one of these days.
I tell you, every single time.
You need a card. You need something to read off of for this every single time. Well, Brad's right. This should not be a taboo subject. But this next clip, and this is our final clip, I believe, Bradley, right?
Yeah, this
Right,
is.
do we have one more, Dan?
We might.
Is there one more with Dan?
So this is a 4 minute and 33 second clip. This is a long one.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Dan. Okay, I'm sorry. I think this is second to last. Then, correct?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Let's see some more Dan. I'm loving Dan Bongino tonight. This is great.
All right. This is a almost 5 minute clip. So hang tight. We're going to talk about this one. Be back shortly.
Are they spoofing our sensors? The strange part is a lot of what's out there, not all, but a lot of what's out there, have you noticed, is on government cameras? In other words, if you were going to engage in a system spoofing operation for sensors, thermal, IR, visual, whatever it is, radar, wouldn't you want to target it at government-affiliated aircraft? I find that explanation, at least for some of these incidents, to be quite possible.
Yeah.
Here's
I'm with you.
That's been something we've discussed before, too, by the way. Another thing, it's even simpler. Is this our technology? As is indicated by a number of people in the past, our initial stealth bomber technology was kept secret for a very long time. There were rumors, there were pictures, there was other stuff, but it was kept secret for a really long time. Is this our tech? Is this our technology? We know it's out there because people have, gotten it and putting it out there. So is the government releasing its own video and pretending it doesn't know what it is in a dipsy-do flipperoo? I have this down as the effing with the Chinese Communist Party theory. No, think about it. Do we have this stuff? We obviously don't want the Chinese Communist Party to know. So because we don't have this stuff, we're in public playing stupid, releasing government videos. Oh my gosh, Gee, look at that. This CBP plane caught this thing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We don't know what that is. It's split in two, going into water. This is just bananas. I don't know what's going on here.
It's a good possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, you're darn right. Now let's get to some of the, so far we've got simpler explanations or sensor spoofing, very possible. That's where I'm leaning towards. Our technology, definitely possible. Could be too, leaning towards that. The other one's obvious. Is it their technology? Who's they? I don't know. China, North Korea, Iran. We don't know what they're up to. We have no idea. They're closed economies. They're certainly not selling this technology to Nintendo. I mean, could it be their technology? Just as easy as it could be ours. Those are kind of the simpler explanations. Here's some ones that require a lot of assumptions. I'm not suggesting they're totally crazy or that you're nuts for thinking that they're possible. I'm just suggesting they require a lot of assumptions, and I prefer to stick with Occam's razor. Here's one you may not have heard a lot about, but I think it's actually more likely than alien technology. Is this some kind of time travel device or something? I'm not suggesting this is it. Again, please, I already told you what I thought it was. Simply saying we're going to have an honest conversation and we're going to start getting to some explanations since someone else seems to be venturing there. Is this some kind of human experiment from the future? I don't know. It seems just as likely to me as the other explanation, which is some alien life form.
There are many in ufology that believe that all flying saucers are a form of time travel, or could be a form of time travel.
Joe is very familiar with this material and is like the perfect kind of almost like guest for this, even though he's the producer. Yes, I've heard that before. Is it aliens? Folks, I got to be honest with you. I find that to be the least likely one. I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but after reading Hugh Ross's book, Why the Universe is the Way It Is, don't get lost in the space is so big argument. I'm not telling you it's impossible. Please, I know I'm going to get a lot of emails, and it's okay. I'm not telling you it's impossible. I'm just telling you, if you read Hugh Ross's book about why the universe is so big, it'll make more sense why the possibility of life elsewhere seems so unlikely. Not impossible, but really, really, really unlikely. Check it out. It's called Why the Universe is the Way It Is. Good book. But I think just to be clear, I think sensor technology and our technology, a mix of that, sensor spoofing and our tech, them trying to hide it and using a little distraction. Look, shiny red object. I think that's what's really going on.
Oh, Dan, you missed it. You just almost there. You just had to say demons. That's all you had to say.
Yeah. Well, so part of the background, and I mean, he has something else in common with you, Matt, because he seems to be Catholic, but he has no problem on his show talking about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, which I think is really, really cool. But yeah, like the thing that he misses is because he's a political commentator, you know, former Secret Service agent, and so he is really on board of the using the political system, fixing the political system, and it's like, as we know, the United States is just part of all the nations that Satan offered to Jesus, right? He's still running things. He's still allowed to run things. And so if you look at this from a purely materialistic perspective, you're going to be confused. And the thing that he's missing that's tying it all together is what's happening in the spirit realm behind all this, and the fact that these are demonic. Now, are there some instances of balloons? Yes. Like I believe that video that we saw that was a balloon. Yeah, we have balloons. They're legitimate technology. But you know, when they start talking about UFOs, or when we start getting mixed messages, or you know, we don't know what this is. I mean, that's the thing that, and it's not just Dan Bongino. A lot of people, I think, are going to miss because they don't have that biblical worldview.
And Matthew, you're a former Catholic, right? Or are you still
former
Catholic?
Yeah, Eric. What are you trying to say? I have so much in common.
Yeah, I didn't say you were still a Catholic, but I mean, he had you. I mean, you know more about Catholicism than I do. You know.
Surely. Yeah, the thing with Dan is he was mentioning Occam's razor, which, if you know what he's talking about, it's that the most obvious explanation is generally the correct explanation. So I hope that he applies Occam's razor to this alien dilemma that will come upon the Earth when he sees them, and I hope he does his due diligence and he does some research on the subject and doesn't just go with the lovey-dovey, feely, new age perspective that's going to be brought on the Earth. I genuinely hope that I have hope for people who call themselves Catholic right now. I don't think that means that you're gone. My stance is I stand with the reformers in that prophecy shows us that the beast of Revelation is the papacy. It's the system of Roman Catholicism. It's not necessarily its adherents. It is that institution. So Dan Bongino, I mean, yeah, this has been a great night with Dan. I think we've all gotten some really great entertainment out of him. And he seems like a decent guy. I mean, I'd chat with him. But it's a shame that he thinks time travel is more likely than an extraterrestrial being. And I say extraterrestrial because by their definition, these fallen angels, they are extraterrestrial. Their domain was heaven, and they were cast out of heaven onto earth. By default, they fit the bill. It just goes to show that if the alien deception is revealed, it will blow people's minds. I mean, there was a little bit of scripture that I was looking over that I'll share. It's just a couple of verses here from Luke chapter 21. And we're going to start at 21:26. Men's hearts failing them for fear and looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when those things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh.
Yes.
It's powerful. Men's hearts failing them. If people can't even conceive of this spiritual realm that we are grappling against, these dark powers, I can't even imagine the tribulation that the world is going to undergo. Yeah, their hearts will be failing them. The Bible is absolutely true in that respect. So I hope the best for Dan. Like you said, Brad, he was so close. So close.
Well, and to give him the benefit of the doubt, I mean, he might not have even been exposed to the idea. So like, you know, who's talking about this? We are. but mainstream churches, even within, the Protestantism, aren't, from what I understand, or at least not as much. And so the Catholic Church, almost guaranteed isn't, because, like you mentioned, the papacy, the whole system is in on it. And so they have an agenda. So, people need to get into scripture more, and people, hopefully videos like this will, we're spreading the message. But if you don't, there's going to be a lot. I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of people who are just like, in the past few years, a lot of people have woken up to the fact that there's something wrong here, and they start looking for answers. And so that's why it's important for us and the people who know to put out the, don't keep the light under a basket. If you talk to people, mention it, because, it just that seed planted, right? We have no idea where those seeds are going to go. And it's just, I think, especially people hearing it now, and it might not go anywhere right now, but then when things start to progress in the future, and then they think back, oh, wow, I heard this a while ago. That's what kind of did it for me. I had heard Revelation growing up, and then it was just 2 years ago. And then there was talk about certain people should not be allowed to, go to the grocery store or all this, go to work or things like that. And I was like, oh man, this is Revelation's buying and selling. And that's what did it for me. So, I don't count anybody out. And it seems like, I think Dan would be very interested, or at least his producer, Joe Armacost. He said, Dan said he was into the UFO stuff. I wonder if he'd be interested, or if he's heard of Joe Jordan's stuff and the work that he's done. Because Joe Jordan said that even within the UFO community, people were finding out about the name and power, or the power of the name of Jesus Christ, that it was stopping these abduction experiences, and they weren't saying anything because, again, of the agenda.
Right. It gets them canceled. Yeah, that's it. Well, it is 12:13 here on the East Coast, and somewhere in the hills of Tennessee. At least that's where I am. I want to. I want to.
We have one more. We have one more clip,
and I want to make sure we play this before I go, because I'm getting signals that if I don't get in bed soon, I will be tired tomorrow.
Okay. No worries. This is an important last clip. This is going to be the reaction of a lot of people if you're spreading this message. Go ahead, Brad. Let's see it.
All right, here we go.
Aliens.
He gave a picture.
Liz, what is going on? Are these unidentified flying objects an invasion from outer space, or is it just more Chinese spy?
No, what sounds like Chinese propaganda, but everything does these days. What people need to remember is UFO does stand for unidentified flying object. They automatically connect it to aliens. I mean, we do have the top chief, was it the FBI or the Pentagon, saying he wouldn't rule out
it was a general
that it could be aliens, but I don't believe in aliens.
And I like, we showed in the corner of the screen before a little promo for the Are We Ready for War documentary, which is showing on Sky on Wednesday, about whether we'd be ready for war with China. Perhaps we need to do another doco. Are we ready for aliens? Because they are on the horizon.
Who knows? After the last couple of years, you wouldn't discount anything.
Wow.
Yeah, they're laughing now.
Yeah.
Do they hear themselves? Oh my goodness, that gives me chills.
I told you, it's crazy. It's crazy. What a time to be alive. I think that's a great clip to close on, just to show. That's, by the way, Sky News Australia, which is the equivalent of Fox News in America. So, again, a major news outlet talking about these things, making light of it, kind of joking around, ha ha ha. Well, we'll see. We'll see what goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's close this out. Would you close this out with prayer, Eric?
Sure.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that you've given us to discuss these things in the coming great deception with each other and with those who are watching. We know that only you can see the future. Only you have the foreknowledge and the ability to make things happen. And so while it is interesting to speculate, we know that focusing on the works of the devil is not really what we should be doing. We ask that you help us to keep our attention fixed on you, fixed on Bible prophecy. We ask that those watching, that you draw them to you and to your word. And when we read your word, we ask that you give us wisdom and discernment so that we will not be deceived, and so that we can put ourselves on your side of the great controversy and finally have the relationship with you that you intended for us. And we ask that you bless Brad and this channel and all the efforts that are taking place around the world to spread the message like this so that others will not be deceived as well. We love you and we thank you for everything that you do for us. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 Eric, Matt, hang out for a second. Don't leave. And I'm going to close up here. Guys, we really appreciate you. Stay tuned. There's a lot more coming. We love you. Thanks for watching this segment. Subscribe to our channel and join us every Thursday night for more daily strange topics and more. Find us on Discord by accessing patreon.com/strangenormal. See you there.